So we continue discussion which we have had started last time, that whenever we have got a system of input, a system and an output, in general we can have any system. We have input and output, and this is called a system. We work with input as voltage in T, output as VOT, and the system may contain only restriction on system component is that it should contain linear components, that is R, L, C, scaling, that is amplification and addition. So in that, so this may be any combination, this may be any electronic circuit which is a linear circuit. So in that case, what we get is, we get a differential. Listen very carefully, this is the crux of entire, not only subject, but it is applicable for all. So ultimately we get a differential equation. We get a differential equation in terms of VOT and VT. Then solving differential equation when there is only differential terms of one variable, maybe first order, second order, that variable itself and constant, that is easy. But when we have got another variable which is also time variable, means at this d2 VOT upon dt plus VOT is equal to 1, you have solved easily. But the moment at which it comes with other variable which is an independent variable, input variable, so a system and input variable, so that time this differential equation becomes complex to solve, and we took help of difference equation to get a fair amount of idea. So when we got a difference equation, we concluded that VON is equal to summation HK V in of n minus k, as k is ranging from 0 to infinity. That the current output sample is the weighted sum of current and previous input samples. Now, what we have got? VON is sequence. In general, what we have got? V in n. So I write on the next page. So we have got a V in n. Means what is V in n? V in n is the sampled input sequence. I get output which I sampled. V in n is the sampled input signal which is now a sequence. What I have got? I have got V in t. I also have got, actually I obtained VOT. I have V in t, I obtained VOT, but I am unable to establish the relationship. So what I did, since too much details may not be required, what I tried to ignore in between things and take only samples. So V in n is the sampled input sequence, VO is the sample output sequence, and what I can do, I can sample at a higher rate, so as to be as accurate as possible, but not actual continuous. Means when I go on, now suppose let us say that we want to measure how the height of a child is increasing. So if you take and we have to plot a graph, or not child, some small fast growing tree, which grows in 1 year, then if you take sample every day and plot it, it is good enough accuracy. If you go on taking samples at every hour, means still it's very nice, and you can go on sampling 1 hour, then 1 minute, 1 second, like that. But ultimate thing is sampling means what is continuous, whether what we mean by continuous signal, where samples touch each other. Well, I am trying my level best to introduce this theme, where for direct academic students, they may find that I think they should immediately form a new group of WhatsApp for the only DSY, and I will upload the previous lectures that you should do immediately. Otherwise, you may find that something odd is there, means something different and we are learning. So samples, what is continuous? Continuous is, samples are, means I take sample at 1 second each. Then I say I will double the sampling rate, means I will take sample at, I am taking samples at 1 second. Doubling the sampling rate means what will happen? Sample at, I am taking samples at 1 second, per 1 sample per second. When I double sampling rate, what is the sampling rate? At how much interval I take a sample? Half second. I may double. I may further double. If I further double, what will happen? If I further double, quarter second, 1/8 second. Means, see, this is the interesting thing of infinity things, that even if you go on each time doubling the rate, will the samples touch each other? Even if you go on doubling the rate every time, double, then double, again double the rate, double the rate. Still in this situation, samples will not touch each other, right? Half second, 1/4 second, 1/8 second, 1/16 second. In any case, samples will be apart by a non-zero interval. Therefore, continuous is a limiting case. When we say limiting case, it is never achievable. It is never. When in 11th you studied calculus, that time you might have got the theme, something tends to 0 but not equal to 0 means what? Tends to 0, if I am at, this is my destination and I am at this much distance. So you tend to 0 means what? You are traveling. Then what is the mean? You got the, whether at any point of time, have you got this thing in mind? Even for diploma at the first year, something tending to 0 and not equal to 0 means what? Means it is a journey which is never completing. But then whether you have asked me question, if I start and I am going close and close, why I should not go? Why I should not meet? It is not like that. Journey is not like that. How is the journey? Journey is you travel half the remaining distance. You travel half the remaining distance. In next second, you travel half the remaining distance. In next second, you travel half the remaining distance. So this is the process where what happens? We tend to the destination, but we will never achieve it. It is called as asymptotical travel. What is asymptotical travel? Asymptotical travel is you start and in a given interval, in a given finite interval, that may be small, in given finite interval, you travel half the remaining distance. So even after infinite iterations, you will never achieve that. Is it clear? This is samples and continuous. So continuous is the limiting case. Integration is limit of sum. Means it will not achieve, but human being's ability is even to be able to think of that impossibility means, listen very carefully, impossibility is a possible thing on thinking plane of human individual. Tending to zero will never achieve, it is limiting case, but that I can anticipate and define the answer. To what extent you understand, I don't know, but whenever you may watch this YouTube after 1 year, after 2 years, after 5 years, it is likely that these things will make some impact on you. So Vn and Von, and what is the equation? The equation is Von is equal to summation Hk Vin of n minus k, k starting from 0 to infinity. Now, in mathematical terms, this is a sequence and it is independent. Independent means it can be anything. Then there are two ways: a random sequence which we never consider. A deterministic sequence means Vn is having some formula in terms of n. Laksha laga. Means you plan your progress. Means what? You define at this point of time I will be this, at this point of time I will be this. Means your expected progress at given time is by some formula, and one say that I will not plan. So what would be his planning? Random. So we can't have a formulation if things are random, but I can apply any signal. Any signal means not a random signal. Any signal is a deterministic signal. Deterministic signal means what? V in n is a function of n. A determined, known, fixed function of n. Means V in n is equal to n, V in n is equal to root n, V in n is equal to n square, V in n is equal to 1 by n, V in n equal to sine n, V in n equal to sine omega n, V in n equal to e raised to minus kn, or k we will not use, e raised to minus an or minus an. Is it clear? So V in n is means given n, you can find what is V in n. Means there exists a formula such that at every n which is specified to you, you are able to compute V in n. Such is applied here. So V in n is a sequence which is a formula in terms of n. You get Von again, you get Von. Now, what is this? This is a circuit which contains many components. Now suppose that human being, when you analyze human being, when you meet new people, when you change the college, you meet new people, then you try to make an estimate of an individual. Then whether two new students meet, do they call for each other's, what we can say, psychometric reports? When two people meet each other, do they call for psychometric reports? No. Then what they do? By interacting, each person models the other person. What is a person? A person is a mix of so many things, but I model it in some formula. He is a lazy person, he is irreliable, he is very much studious, he is too much sincere, he is unpredictable. Is it clear? So a person contains infinite number of elements, but ultimately you put effect of all these in a single formula. Is it right? Like that. What is this? It contains resistor, capacitor, inductor, amplifiers, adders, large in much large in number. Only thing is that it is linear circuit. No non-linear, diode is non-linear element. No non-linear elements are in place. So if every component is linear, then arrangement of all will be reflected in Hk. Here Vin is input, Vo is output, and what this is system. Every system will have different Hk. So why I write K? Because at the same time there are two things coming. These are having different indexes. Therefore I have used K. Otherwise, in general, this is I can define as Hn. Means for F. So ultimately what I want to convey, that input is a sequence, output is a sequence, and the system is also defined in a sequence. Every system will have different sequence. This is called as characteristic equation or transfer function sequence of system. So what is a linear system, how it operates? Output is, what is the output of a linear system? Output sequence of a linear system? Output sequence of a linear system is output sequence of the linear system is, what is this? It is what? Output sequence of a linear system is weighted sum of input sequence. Right? Means weighted sum. What is output? It's weighted sum of current and all previous input samples. Then there is a manner in which these weights are there. So what is H0? What is Hn? I think last time I have told. I am repeating again because this is something which is very close to every engineering application. What is Hn? Hn is the, whether a part by sir. What is Hn? Hn is the proportion with which the input which occurred n samples ago is contributing in the determining current output. H0 म्हणजे काय? H0 म्हणजे H0 म्हणजे आत्ताच्याच इनपुटचं करंट आउटपुट मध्ये किती वेट. H1 म्हणजे काय? मागच्या सॅम्पलच्या, म्हणजे मराठीत सांगतो, करंट आउटपुट काय असणार? समथिंग इनटू करंट इनपुट प्लस सम अदर थिंग इनटू प्रीवियस इनपुट प्लस सम अदर थिंग इनटू प्रीवियस टू प्रीवियस इनपुट. इज इट क्लियर? म्हणजे आत्ता जर मी VON काढणार असेल तर माझ्याकडे काय काय आहे? VIN आहे, VIN-1 आहे, VIN-2 आहे, VIN-3 आहे, VIN-4 आहे, असं भरपूर आहे. तर VON काय येणार? H0. हे मी जेव्हा सम लिहितो तेव्हा बऱ्याचदा असे सिम्बॉल काढले की आपल्याला डिटेल लक्षात कधी विसरून जातो आपण. तर VON म्हणजे कसं येणार? H0 plus VIN something into current input. plus H1 into V in n minus 1 plus H2 into V in, असं होतं ना, right? So H0, H1, H2, this is a sequence, this is property, म्हणजे सर्व जे components आहेत त्याची arrangement जी आहे that is reflected in HN. So the output sequence is a convolution of input sequence and system sequence. So HN collectively means the entire arrangement of various components is collectively represented by HN. And when I go on the continuous side, what it is, when it is on continuous side, I have got V in T, I have got T, and I have got HT, and VOT is equal to 0 to infinity H of T, sorry, we just make it H of U, V of T minus U, D. Du is infinitesimal. Infinitesimal. So HU du. So what I am trying my level best. 0 to infinity HU du into V in T minus U. HU du V in T minus U. This, what is this du? This du is infinitesimally small. So what I do, if I say that du I approximate as delta u, try, u is a continuous variable. U is a continuous variable. V in T minus will be what? Input. What is V in T? Current input. What is V? This is VOT. VOT is current output. VOT is current output. V in T is current input. Current output depends on what you are today is because of what you got till all previous things, and if our philosophy is to be accepted, it may go back to previous births also. Then, as you can't go into previous birth, this is one way of justification. As you can't go to previous birth, whenever you are born, that integration till that time, integration of what you received in previous births, till that time comes up as your state at the time of the birth. And then plus whatever it means that, listen very carefully. Current output is because this is difficult because it's not, it's integration. This you can say. This is easy. Current output is because of current output is because of current input into something plus this, and then you can go back. Then suppose that after 10, if your age I am sampling at say 1 per day, I am sampling per day, and your age today is say 7,000 days. Your age today is 7,000 days. Then what it would be? What you are depends on what you receive today. What you receive today into this. What you received yesterday into this. What you received day before yesterday into this. And that goes back to infinity. You can't go back. Up to means since your age is 7,000 days, n minus 7,001, n minus 7,001, you can't define. So in that case what happens? Listen very carefully. This is not just some mythological discussion, this is requiring our applications also. So what can I say? VON is equal to k equal to 0 to infinity h0 into Vin of n minus k. So this I can divide as k equal to 0 till 6999 plus attendance plus k equal to 7,000 till infinity right. Then this is something which is your initial state. This is something which is your initial state. So I can write this as VON is equal to your initial state. So that I can define by S0 plus k equal to 0 till now or infinity 6999 So what you are today? What you are today is because of something what you received just now into some multiplier plus some other thing which you received yesterday into another multiplier. आज जे काही तुम्हाला इनपुट मिळाले त्याचा काहीतरी प्रपोर्शन प्लस काल मिळायचा प्लस परवा मिळायचा असं जन्मल्या पहिल्या दिवशी मिळायचा and this is what with which you are born because you can't go back. So this is the initial state. So current output is weighted sum of current and all previous inputs. When I say all, it goes back to minus infinity. It goes back to minus infinity. I can't go back. Therefore, if I can't go back, then at some point of time, what this system was is known. So in that, how you are means this. We started, I don't know whether you recollect or not, how we started this? VON is equal to something into V in n plus some other thing into VO n minus 1. Right? From that means it was simple. From that we entered this as very complex. This was simple, but the problem was each time I was have to depend upon previous input. So I got rid of this. I got the previous inputs concept here. I don't need them. But if this has got some advantage, this has got some advantage. So I make a hybrid combination now. So try to listen. there are various ways with which we can analyze. What you are today is what you were yesterday plus something which depends on what you received today. Is it right? Every output depends, every output is previous output plus something into the input just given, one variation. Or when we convert this is called an iterative equation. Iteration is there, previous input, previous output. Current output contains previous output term. Now, if I want, it's a finite term iterative equation. If I want to convert it into a non-iterative equation, it becomes infinite term non-iterative equation. There was a two-term iterative equation. Output was previous output plus something into previous output plus something into current input. Simple, two terms means either equation VON, there were two terms in summation. From 2 it became infinite. So these are two extremities. Now I make them hybrid. This is, what is this? Output is the weighted sum of current and few previous samples till I go back, and the output at state S, actually SO, this I can say as output at n minus, in fact 7th hour. त्यावेळेस मागचं हे आउटपुट म्हणजे त्यावेळेची स्थिती, state at the time of birth. So this is the hybrid equation with which we did it. Now, when I come here, this equation. So you focus on this equation. The input u is a variable which will go from 0 to infinity. U is a variable which will go from 0 to infinity. Now, how I can segregate it? I am trying my level best. I don't know to what extent you are understanding, but and I again repeat, everything need not be understood instantly. At least everybody of you is believing that I am not talking something absurd. म्हणजे जैसा कशाचाच कशाशी संबंध नाही, असं मी बोलत नाही आहे. When you are sure that is the thing which you are listening, there are two things. Thing which you are listening and understanding immediately, that is very simple. Thing which you are listening and not at all understanding, in that case either it is something completely absurd, no question of understanding. So when you are not means suppose that now you go for some lecture which is another medium of instruction which you don't understand. So I have to ask 2-3 questions. Number one, whether the medium of instruction is understood by me is something which I know? Yes. In that case, a mad fellow may talk something in English in an absurd manner that you need not understand. So you should ask a question whether I am listening in the language which I know? Yes. Whether the speaker is absurd? No. And means obviously if you are understanding, no question. Your state, you are not understanding. This is case 1. The person talking is in the language no, and the person not talking absurd. Means what? There is need for you to have a detailed study further. Right? So now this I can, listen very carefully, can I do like this? VOT is equal to 0 to delta U. Can I do like this? You can, it is finite integral, you can convert into parts. Now, if delta u is sufficiently small, if delta u is sufficiently small, then you can make this integration, what this term would be. If delta u is sufficiently small, you approximate this term. But tell me what it is. Just try for a moment. So what will happen? If du is sufficiently small, then this is zeroth interval. This is first interval. If du is sufficiently small, then what I can do is, in that sufficient small interval, this hu is hu is a continuous variable. This is also a continuous variable. But when du is sufficiently small, what I can do, hu is, suppose that this is du. Hu is something like this, du. Then hu will vary, but it is so less that the average of hu during du, I can call this as h0. I can call this as h0. Average this, I can call it as v in. I can call v in n. I can that input at that time, and then what will happen? This du is sufficiently small, so this I will call as h0, this I will call as, say, h dash 0. H dash 0, I deliberately use h dash. H dash 0, v in n. So if both are constant, what will happen? H dash 0, v in n, du from 0 to delta I. hu is a function of u. v in t minus u is also a function of u. But du being so small, over that change I can assume the average of it to be constant. म्हणजे hu बदलतंय डेल्टा यू स्मॉल असलं तरी, हे v in हे पण बदलतंय, पण त्याचा ॲव्हरेज मी घेतला तर तो ॲव्हरेज बदल इतका du डेल्टा u इतकं स्मॉल आहे की तो जो बदल आहे तो बदल निग्लिजिबल जर का ॲव्हरेज घेतला तर, म्हणजे HU is variable, this is variable which I can treat to be constant at the average of that. So that would be H dash 0 V in N D. Now H dash 0 is constant and not a function of U. This is constant, not a function of U. So what integration would be to come out? So H dash 0 V in N and 0 to delta U du. What it is now? What is integration of du? Integration of du किती? U limits 0 delta U. So this would be
delta u
delta U. And H0 delta U, H dash 0 delta U would be H0 V. Now here, this I will say as H dash 1. This is now starting from delta U to 2 delta U. Delta U to 2 delta U. So it is starting from delta U to 2 delta U. This, it was varying from T, and this U means from T to, it was a range from T to T minus delta U, right? T to T minus delta U. Now the range would be T minus delta U to T minus 2 delta U. That is, if I say T minus delta U as T dash, it is from T dash, or if T minus delta U as T1, from T1 to T1 minus delta U. So this I will say as, what is T1? T1 is T minus delta U. So V in bracket N minus 1. This is H dash 1. This is V in N minus 1. H dash 1 delta U is H1 V N minus 1. So with this, both continuous and discrete are identical. Is it okay? We'll continue next time. Regard for mid-same, whatever we covered